from WBBZ-TV Sports. It's time to beat the champ. Now, here are your hosts, Paul Peck and Sue Novoitsky.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Beat the Champ as we return to Transit Lanes in Williamsville for the first time in a year. My name is Paul Peck with Hall of Fame bowler Sue Novoitsky along with Janelle Sabin. Coming back to Transit Lanes, Sue, means we come back with one of the best lineups we've ever had. Of our 10 bowlers, 9 are Beat the Champ veterans, and those 9 have combined for 34 Beat the Champ wins. So, with great bowlers like Pat Brick and Mike Zarcone and Matt Zasowski, what's going to be the key to victories?
Well, there's going to be 3 keys to victories here today at Transit Lanes. This is a better scoring condition and we have very talented bowlers, but it's still going to come down to the same thing. It's going to be staying relaxed. It's going to be avoiding pocket splits, which can be very common here, and it's going to be ball selection, which we'll have some expert advice from Jack Jurek helping us with bowling balls.
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot more about bowling balls and equipment today. You are going to be talking a lot more about some great crowds that we expect to have at one of the most popular places we come to.
Definitely, this is a huge center, and we love all the people that come out here, so I'm expecting a lot of noise from the crowd today.
Should be a great month of bowling here. It's going to be a great day of bowling because we started out with a terrific match, Pat Brick versus Matt Zazowski. So without any further ado, let's get rolling. Our returning champion from the Kearns Avenue Bowling Center is Pat Brick, and Matt Zasowski is a familiar name here on Beat the Champ, although we haven't seen Matt in a while, a couple of months. Matt, I know, has been out doing some touring on the PBA Tour, so Matt also one of our more successful bowlers. So right off the bat, Sue, we start with a couple of heavyweights in this first match.
Wow, absolutely, and Matt's been out there gaining some experience, and when he comes back to this environment, it almost seems you know, a little, I'm not going to say less competitive because, my God, you're pulling Pat Brick. But,
yeah, well, and again, just this first show, Pat Brick and Matt Zazowski in our first match, and then the winner will take on Mike Kemp, and then the winner of that one gets to go against Mike Zarcone. So we are stepping right into some real heavy hitters, and the reason is these guys qualified well. Matt had a 765 qualifying score, and there you get an early look as to why. A strike on the first frame for Matt Zasowski. Well, we're always, it's always a pleasure for us to be joined when we come to Transit Lanes by the king of Transit Lanes. Is that an appropriate thing to call you, Jack Jurek?
That is far from appropriate.
Well, Jack Jurek.
I'm long-standing. I'm old.
Long-standing? All right, I gotcha. Well, veteran professional bowler and the owner of the Bowler's Choice Pro Shop here at Transit Lanes, Jack Jurek, is going to join us for our first show to provide some insight and some strategy and some color commentary here as we look at Pat Brick's first throw of the day, and that's a strike as well too. So, Sue, you gave everybody the keys to success here at Transit Lanes. Jack, expand upon those a little bit. You know this place as well as anybody. What does it take to be a winner here when you're on lanes 11 and 12 in Transit?
Well, I don't know if it's so much lanes 11 and 12, but in general in this place, it really all is about picking the right ball and getting your ball to enter the pocket the right way. Carrying this house can be very tricky sometimes. If your ball may look good going to the pocket, but if it's not quite doing the right thing, corner pins are always an issue here. 7-10s are a big issue here. So the key for these guys is going to be getting their ball to read the mid part of the lane soon enough, get into a good heavy roll, enter in the pocket, and that's going to lead to their best carry percentage.
Right. Well, and there was a pretty good example of the it didn't carry all the way over from left to right for Pat Brick.
Yeah, that ball for Pat just shot down the lane a little bit further than he'd like. He needs that ball to pick up his roll just a little bit quicker. Just watching them warm up a little bit compared to the practice pair. This pair looks to be just a little tighter right now, a little bit more oil maybe. So these guys will have to make a little adjustments as they go along.
Now, Jack, both these gentlemen, I believe, are staff members, are they not? I think that Maddie is on Ebonite's staff.
Maddie has been with Ebonite, the EBI company, for a couple years now. I think his second year. I'm not sure what. I think Pat's pretty much a free agent. I think he's got a little bit of everything in his bag from what I saw.
He's wearing his Hammer shirt today, so I don't know if he's planning on.
Could just be a lucky thing.
His Sunday red.
Always worked for Tiger.
That's right, it sure did. All right, as I mentioned, Matt Zasowski making his 2017 debut. This is his 8th appearance on Beat the Champ, an overall record of 7 wins and 5 losses for Matt Zasowski. He has also won 4 weekly trophies in the first year or so of Beat the Champ, but it's been a while, I guess, since Matt's won one of those. The last one came at Manor Lanes, which was 3 or 4 months ago, if I'm not mistaken. 41 years old, from Tonawanda, with a very solid 230 average, and one of the best bowlers in Western New York is Matt Zasowski. What do you know about Matt, Jack? Tell us a little bit about the scouting report on Matt.
Matt's been around a long time. He's really just been one of the more solid players in the area for quite a while now, and I think this season really is. I don't know if it's been the change of equipment or anything, or maybe it's just gaining a little more confidence, but Matty's really had a fantastic year this year. Everywhere he goes, I'm seeing his name in the paper all the time. Matt's using a really strong ball here right now, and I think that's an indication of the slickness of the lanes right now. That ball, freshly drilled, I know he just got that one, and it's a really strong ball. So he's trying to get that ball rolling quick.
There you see Janelle Sabin manning the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard, which she will do throughout the day to keep you updated on the progress of our bowlers. And now we move to the 3rd frame for Pat Brick. And once again, similar to what happened in the last frame, where that 6 pin is the one that kind of hangs up. Not a lot of pin movement there.
Yeah, I think in an effort to try and make up for the shot on the left lane where it came in a little light, Pat just kind of softened his speed just a little bit, maybe try to hit it just a little bit more to get that ball to pick up and read a little sooner.
You saw our social media outlets for all of your Beat the Champ information. Make sure you like us on the Facebook page and follow us on Twitter, and that's where you'll get all the information about who's qualifying, what the scores are, and when our next set of qualifiers, which will take us down to Fredonia for next month's series of shows, qualifying for that coming up soon. So all the information available on the Facebook page to keep track of Beat the Champ. For Pat Brick, this is his 7th appearance on Beat the Champ for the 49-year-old from Tonawanda. He has 7 wins and 3 losses. 3 weekly trophy wins for Pat Brick, and again, he was the returning winner from last month's stop at the Kearns Avenue Bowling Center. What are you seeing early on from Pat here, Sue?
Yeah, Pat's fishing around a little bit. And if Jack was talking about the strong ball that Matt was using, and even though one's right-handed, one's left-handed, I think that they're both seeing the lanes kind of, the same on each of their sides. But if you see Pat, he's got a shiny ball. Matt's ball has a little more surface to it and is reading the lane differently. And this ball's just going a little bit too long for him, though.
Yeah, and early on, it looks like the left lane, lane 11 here, looks on the left side at least to be maybe just a hair tighter.
This feels like a good time to take a short break. We'll be right back with more action on Beat the Champ. Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ-TV.
Hi, I'm with Matt Zazowski, one of our winningest bowlers on Beat the Champ. We haven't seen you in a while, Matt. What have you been up to?
The last 5 months I've been bowling regionals and bowling out on a national tour, so I haven't been able to bowl any shows.
So you've been acquiring all this experience to take on these guys today.
Hopefully, yes.
All right, well, good luck today.
Thank you.
I'm with Pat Brick, our defending champion, who's got some big competition out here today. What's your strategy?
Just try and throw more strikes in them. Got a couple of good, a lot of talent on this show, so I'm just going to try and carry a little bit more than they do.
Yeah, this is one of our star-studded shows, that's for sure. So your first match today, what do you think you're going to do?
Just try and hit the pocket, repeat shots, and see what happens. That's about it.
Well, if anybody can do it, it's you. So good luck today.
Thank you.
I'm here with Pat Brick's daughter, Maddie. Maddie, how do you like watching your dad bowl?
Good.
Yeah? Does he make you really proud?
Yeah.
Now, how about you? Do you bowl at all?
No.
No, not in any leagues or anything like that? Just for fun? That's good. Well, you're going to keep coming out watching your dad bowl?
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, give me a high five. Awesome. Thanks.
I'd say equipment has helped a lot of people in a lot of cases, but at the same time, it's added some different challenges to the game. These high-performance balls today absorb so much oil off the lane compared to balls of 20 years ago that the lane today changes so much, so fast in comparison to years ago. So now you're always not only have to try and get lined up in the beginning, but as you play through the course of 2-3 games, if you're trying to play in the same place as you did in game one, you're going to struggle. And that's why you see a lot of guys shoot 240, 170. They just, I'm lined up, I've got a good shot, I'm going to stay there.
Right. So what you're telling me is that your skill and your ability to adjust has become the most critical part of being a successful bowler because of what the equipment and the lane conditions do. You, like you said, you can't just throw the same shot for 10 frames and expect to have guaranteed success.
There are some new challenges to the game, yes. I mean, you still have to execute, you still got to repeat shots to a certain degree. But now you also have to throw in knowledge of equipment, knowledge of adjusting on the lane, and your adjustments from one day to another are never going to be the same.
Well, the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard is showing a rather healthy advantage right now for Matt Zazowski, who has struck 4 times in a row. Matter of fact, he opened with 3, had a spare, and then 4 in a row, Sue. This is a typically impressive Matty Z performance.
Yeah, that 30 pins is a big lead.
5 in a row now. And I know Matt has been busy in some national tournaments and some PBA qualifiers. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's just come back from the USBC Masters as well too. So, so we haven't seen him on our show as much over the last, say, 3 or 4 months because he's been bowling at a national level.
Yeah, this is a high season for bowling. I mean, the beginning months of the year, right? Everybody's right in the middle of the bowling season, and it's big tournament time, right?
Yeah, you're going to start having city tournaments coming up and state tournaments coming up. So this is definitely the more serious players. This is definitely when they start really ramping up their tournament activity.
So we're moving to the 10th frame, as you can see from the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard, and Matt Zasowski is in control at this point as Pat Brick, it's funny. We've seen Pat, as I mentioned, we've seen him 7 times on the show, Sue, and sometimes Pat is locked in and just ripping through his opponents, and other times he's like this, where he struggles to figure out where he needs to be and what he wants to do.
You know, I have to think that the lefty-righty thing comes into play, even though they're starting on a fresh surface. You know, the lane doesn't always play exactly the same, and sometimes it will be better for the left-hander, sometimes it'll be tougher, and today it was tougher.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that's the one thing, with so few lefties in comparison, it's kind of an all-or-nothing type thing for them. When they've got it, they usually can run through the field pretty easily sometimes, but if the reaction like that Pat had today was just a little sketchy, there's no chance for it to really change when he's by himself.
I think Matt just changed balls there to
probably just testing out the waters a little bit.
To test it out. So that's what, when you have a lead, when you have a match in control, you start trying a few different bowling balls so that, as Jack was alluding to earlier, where the lanes start to change, you have an idea what you're going to go to when the lanes start to change on you.
Well, the strike run continues for Matt Zazowski, and it continues as well. A very strong performance. That's 7 strikes in a row for Matt Zazowski. Only a 4th frame spare, preventing X's across the board here for Matty Z, and he'll try to finish out with another one, and will post a very impressive score and an advancement on to take on our next bowler, and that's Mike Kemp. But well, there you go. A couple of pins left. It won't really matter. And a nice round of applause from the folks here at Transit Lanes for Matt Zazowski, who really has been very impressive here today.
Yeah, this is, we talk about 300 every single time we come to a bowling center, and here we are right there, very, very close. So it'll be an interesting day.
A 277 on the board for Matt Zazowski, so it's a 277 to 194 win for Matt Zazowski. He will advance on. That was a good way to start things for our top qualifier, wasn't it? So, all right, Jack's going to stick around. We've got another match coming up. We will talk to we'll talk to Pat Brick and get his take on what happened here when we return. It's Beat the Champ at Transit Lanes. We're back right after this. Well, it's a win for Matt Zasowski over Pat Brick, 277 to 194. We were talking an awful lot, Pat, about ball selection, and I think as you look back on that match, that was a pretty important key for you as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I thought I had it figured out on the practice pair, but we were hooking a little bit more down there when I came down to the TV pair, a little bit tighter. It was either kind of a half 7 or the ball wanted to check up and leave a 6-pin, so I was kind of caught in the middle, and he was just striking. I was just left in the dust.
Right. Well, lane manager Bill Truman is at least here to make you feel a little bit better, Bill.
Definitely.
Pat, congratulations.
Thank you.
Glad you're here, and we'll see you again this summer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, and I know we're going to see a lot more of you, as we always do here on this show, but we've got another good one coming up. It's Mike Kemp versus Matt Zasowski. That's our next match when Beat the Champ returns to Transit Lanes right after this.
Hi, I'm with Mike Kemp, one of our challengers today on Beat the Champ. You have a star-studded lineup to take on. What do you think?
Well, I know it's going to take a lot of strikes today, so just focus on taking care of my business.
Do you think it's going to help you that you bowl league here?
Well, this year actually kind of struggled here, so bowled pretty well this week here, so felt better this week, so.
Okay, well, you're going to concentrate on that as opposed to your league scores, right?
That's right.
All right. Well, good luck today.
All right, thank you.
Match number 2 will feature Zasowski trying to win his second in a row against Michael Kemp, making his second appearance here on Beat the Champ. We'll talk more about Michael in a moment, but Matt Zasowski, very impressive in the 277 to 194 win over Pat Brick. So Matt will try to keep this roll going through match number 2, and the winner to face Mike Zarcone. So that in itself is something to look forward to for both of these bowlers, or maybe not look forward to.
There's a lot of strike potential out there, I'll tell you that.
There is, and Matt Zasowski, again, as you look back on it, only missed 1 frame in the last match. 2 when you consider the last in the 10th frame, but we got some high-level bowlers going, and Matt seems to have found a little bit of the rhythm here, and let's see what Michael Kemp can do. 32 years old, from Cheektowaga, New York, an analyst at M&T Bank. As I mentioned, this is his second appearance. He actually lost in his only appearance to Mike Zarcone, and that was back at Tonawanda Lanes a couple of months ago. And a good start for Michael Kemp. What do you know about Michael, Jack? And tell us maybe something that we didn't know about Matt Zasowski, that you've been around him a long time.
Well, I don't know Michael very much. Just got to watch him warming up a little bit earlier. Pretty much a down and inner. A little bit more axis rotation on his ball. So it'll be curious to see how the left lane plays for him. I know for Pat it was a little slicker with that axis rotation of Michael's here. It's going to make the ball go a little bit longer, but that ball checked up really nice. For someone who hasn't been around the tournament scene as much as some of the other guys, very, very impressive start.
Well, as you guys talked, and then I asked Pat Brick about it, the ball selection is key. So what are you seeing from the ball selection with these 2 guys right now?
Well, Matty's back to the ball he started with. The strong ball, I think, is, for him right now, definitely the way to go. Matty gets the ball rolling pretty good as it is, but when the lanes are a little slicker, you definitely want to get your ball rolling quicker so it doesn't skid too far down the lane.
We talked a little bit about the adjustments and how the lane changes and you're lined up and then the lanes start to break down a little bit on you. And now Matty's bowling another right-hander where it matters who you're bowling against and where they're playing the lane and basically what equipment they're using too.
Exactly.
So this could break down the lanes a little faster. We'll see how it works out.
Well, now you will start to see a little bit more transition happening now. You got 2 guys that are playing similar parts of the lane. If anything, I think Michael being a little bit straighter than Matty could be a benefit to Matt. Michael will kind of wear down the oil to the right side, to the right part of the lane, and it might give Matty a little bit of drier spot to swing his ball to as the match goes on.
What do you think, Matt? You know, we talked a little bit. Matt has been very active in a lot of PBA regionals, just coming back from the USBC Masters. What does competing in high-level events like that for Matt Zasowski, how does that help his game? How does that help him translate to things that he's learned that might help him here today?
It's experience that you can't get anywhere else. I mean, he spent this past week out there with the greatest bowlers in the world. Not only the greatest bowlers in the United States, but now we're talking the greatest bowlers in the world with all the international representation that's out there. So just to be on the lane with those guys, to cross pairs with them, see the moves they make, just interact and talk with some of these guys. I mean, the one thing about the bowlers out there, I mean, for the most part, I mean, they're really good. I mean, it's a family basically. I mean, there's not a lot of money. You know, we're all trying to survive and make a living, but these guys are, you know, they're willing to help. So you can pick their brain a little bit. Also, you know, with ball reps that are out there, those are the guys you really can learn some stuff from, you know, as far as what adjustments to make, what equipment to maybe think about switching to.
You get access to those guys that you don't normally get.
That is, yeah. I mean, they're the most knowledgeable people in the world out on the PBA tour. Between the bowlers and the reps and everything else that's out there, I mean, that's experience you can't get anywhere else.
It's so true. I mean, when you're on staff with a company, each company has their reps, and their reps will come and help their staff members, and they can drill a bowling ball for you that makes all the difference in the world. I mean, we talk about the importance of ball selection, but to have that assistance, someone eyes behind you, knowing pretty much what's going to happen with the lane, and they can actually go to the next pair that you're going to bowl on and see, because you're following another group of people who they're going to change the lane. So having someone go over to that next pair and see where those people are playing and predict what's going to happen and put a ball in your hand that's going to help you with that. I mean, I want to say it's almost an unfair advantage, but it is such an advantage.
Fourth frame here for Matt Zasowski. He's had 2 strikes and a spare. Michael Kemp, 3 strikes and a spare in his first 4. So we're pretty tight and pretty even here. Let's see what Matt does. And there's a strike. So we are dead even at the moment as far as the results go. Well, speaking of the tour, you are gearing up for another year on the senior tour. Yeah. Give us a sense of how you're feeling going into that. Give us an idea where you're going to be bowling and whether you can bring a few titles back here to Transit Lanes.
Well, that's the plan anyway. Our season starts up in the middle of April. We got this season we got kind of like a 5-week swing to start the year. We got a couple weeks down in Florida, which is always nice to get away a little bit. And then we go to Charlotte, Mooresville, North Carolina, just outside of Charlotte, and then a stop in Long Island, and then the week after that we got another one in Indianapolis. That's a great shot. That right there, that when you get the 6 to kick the 10 out like that, then you know you got your ball doing the right thing.
We're going to be back with more Beat the Champ bowling action in just a minute. Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ-TV.
When you feel that little bit of tension, when you start to realize that you have to strike or you need to keep striking, all of a sudden you start seeing those corner pins start cropping up.
Oh, and a nice rollover to take the 10-pin out for Matt Zasowski. That's the messenger,
there
correct?
You go. Oh.
Wow, you have come a long way, Mr.
Thank you very much. I've got an unbelievable teacher here.
I haven't thrown one like that in 20 years.
Right.
Now, getting back to the relaxation on TV and how it affects your carry. Even after 30 years of being a professional, when I make a step player final at bowl Pete Weber on TV,
still nervous, aren't you?
Absolutely, absolutely, and it does play a big part in how the ball reacts and how it hits the pins.
No messenger that time, right?
Not that time, but that's
a slow-mo messenger that never quite got there.
That was big for Michael, because now it puts Maddie at a 249 pace. Michael can strike out here in the 9th and 10th, shoot 247, and put some pressure back on that.
Mm-hmm. So this is a 9th frame for Matt Zasowski, looking to come up with a 2nd consecutive win and set up a battle of the Z-Men here, Zasowski and Zarcone in our next match. be anything but sleeping with those Z's if that's the way things go.
And you can know for sure that Matty knew exactly what that strike would have meant there. And there's your little bit of when your brain starts, when you start thinking instead of just doing, you know, like you always taught me, take a deep breath before you go and clear your mind, because you can't think about what, your mind can never be like, don't do this or you have to do that, because it's just going to throw everything right off.
Hardest part about the game is just trying to, I mean, all you can really control is what you do from the foul line, you know, from the back of the approach to the foul line. After that, everything's out of your hands. But to give yourself the best opportunity is to try and keep your mind clear. It's much easier said than done.
How much have you had to learn about that, Jack, in your career? I mean, the physical part of your bowling game is as good as anybody in Western New York says, but how difficult is the mental part of it?
Always been the biggest challenge for me, and you know, I hate to admit it, but I have to admit it because it's true. I mean, you know, some of my lack of success out there has just strictly been because of how I've reacted to situations. I've unfortunately, I had a couple of bouts early on that, you know, kind of shattered my confidence a little bit. And for me, I mean, I've bowled surprisingly well considering how tentative I play sometimes.
That was a big miss there, wasn't it, Sue?
Yeah, that sealed the match.
There.
Yeah, that was the game.
Yeah, in order to keep putting the pressure on Matt Zazowski, Mike had to strike out and will not do it there in the 10th frame with that spare.
Yeah.
So Matt Zazowski is going to come up with a win. And we want to mention that our next set of qualifiers comes up at Lucky Lanes in Fredonia with an added bonus to the top qualifier. Receives a $500 television from Dirt Cheap TV. So that's a new addition to our lineup of benefits for being a part of Beat the Champ. And that will come up starting next month at our qualifier down in Fredonia at Lucky Lanes. So here's Matt Zazowski to finish things out in the 10th frame. A 227 on the board for Michael Kemp.
Now, when Michael looks at the show, when he goes back and watches it, I think he should take a lot of pride in how he performed today. I mean, he bowled a very solid game. Every ball in the pocket. Little break on some pin action, maybe changes the whole match. But that was
right. He put every shot right where he needed to.
Yeah, I mean, he's got nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, he bowled a great game. Lost to a good bowler. And I mean, I think if nothing else, he should gain some confidence out of that performance.
Yeah, and he's got a little bit of the unfortunate luck of the draw, and that his two performances on Beat the Champ have come against Mike Zarcone and Matt Zazowski.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of the beauty of this show, though. It's
yeah.
First off, just making the show, you've done something well. And
right.
When you get there, you know you're going to face somebody.
Sure.
You're going to face some of the best in the area.
Right, and again, that's part of the makeup of this show as well too, is you don't know who you're going to. Are you bowling a first-time guy, or are you bowling two guys that have the most combined wins on this show, and you've got to rise to the occasion, and that certainly everybody has the ability to do that. But you know, when Matt's knocking down strikes like he is there, and he's putting up big numbers like he is, that makes him very hard to beat.
Right.
So one more for Matt Zazowski to finish off here. Actually, we've got to finish off. We've got the final score, and that's a 259 for Matt Zazowski. So another big win, 277, 259. Matt Zazowski is on a roll. We'll see if it continues in the next match against Mike Zarcone. We'll find out what Michael Kemp thought about his performance when we return. It's Beat the Champ at Transit Lanes. We're back right after this. Well, a 227 was not enough for Michael Kemp because Matt Zazowski put a 259 on the board. You have had the unlucky draw here in your two Beat the Champ appearances to have bowled against Zasowski and Zarcone. That brings out the best in you, but it's also very tough, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I knew what it was going to take and almost got there, but just not enough today.
Yeah, towards the end there, you were putting some pressure on Matt. That late spare was kind of the difference, wasn't it?
Yeah, I said, you know, make him earn it. I didn't strike in the 10th. He would have earned it anyway, but, you know, just couldn't carry that last one.
All right, well, speaking of earning, Bill Truman, the lane manager, has got something for you to earn as well, too.
Congratulations.
All right, thank you.
Nice bowling today.
All right,
Put on a nice
Michael,
show.
congratulations, good show. Speaking of Zarcone and Zazowski, that's our next match. Could be one of the best we've ever had. It's two of the best bowlers we've ever had. Stick around, a big one coming up next on Beat the Champ.
Hi, I'm with Mike Zarcone, a very familiar face here on Beat the Champ. Tell us what your strategy is today, and tell us where you've came from, actually.
Yeah, we just got off a plane last night. We were in Vegas bowling the USBC Masters and had a good experience. It was fun.
So what do you think is going to be different today? A little bit easier than what you're used to seeing?
A little bit easier than last week, yeah. Be a lot of strikes today. Be a carry contest.
Did you get enough sleep? Are you ready to bowl?
We're a little tired, but we're going to give it a try.
All right, well, good luck today.
Thanks.
Well, it's a clash of the Titans here. Two of the best bowlers in Western New York will go head-to-head as Matt Zazowski tries to win his third match of the day against Mike Zarcone. Sue, these two guys have combined for 21 Beat the Champ wins over the year and 3 months that we've been on the air.
I know, that's more months than we've been here.
I mean, that's amazing. I mean, you know, and again, right at Mike Zarcone has the most wins with 12. Matt Zazowski is now up to 9. The only guy in between him is Tony Dolan with 10. You know, I mean, these are two of the best. And I don't know that they've gone against each other on the show. I'm not sure about that.
No, I'm pretty sure they have.
So what a great head-to-head matchup. So
we have the potential here to have about a 7-minute match. So we got to fit a lot of information. We've got to fit a lot of information.
It's the ZZ top of the charts match. How's that sound? Well, so what are you expecting here? What should we look for in our 7 minutes? Ooh, and that's not what any of us thought.
Well, I brought that up in the
Mike got lucky there with the late fall, didn't he?
I brought that up in the keys to success here because that's something that I've seen a lot here at Transit Lanes is that pocket 7-10 split. And you talk about what creates that.
To me, that's a ball just getting a little too far down the lane, breaking a little too late. Kind of sends the 5 pin in front of the 7. So, that's it's minute, but the ball going a foot further down the lane before it really gets into its heavy roll is sometimes all it takes.
So, do you think that the oil pattern here? Because I know they've fished around kind of this year with the oil pattern. But one thing I've seen a lot of this year here is the pocket 7-10. Do you think it has to do with the length that the oil's been put on the lanes?
It probably a little bit of that. Could be just how much gets pushed down the lane as the day goes on. There's so many factors that go into the lane transition.
I've just seen so many more of those,
yeah.
And myself personally, I've left a lot more than normal.
And I think part of it too is just the equipment. Nowadays, I mean, you've got stuff, you've got so many different types of bowling balls, and there's so many things that all go into it. But I don't think there's a definitive answer, but usually with something like that, to me, the ball is just getting too far down the lane before it really gets into its heavy roll.
Well, an interesting start for Mike Zarcone. Nearly a 7-10 split. He gets the spare. Then he leaves the 3 and the 6 pin in the second frame and gets the spare. So not what you might have expected, at least not what I thought of with Mike Zarcone. On the flip side, Matt Zazowski has struck out in the first 2 frames. So an interesting start to a match maybe we didn't expect it to go that way.
Well, here's the advantage that Matty's had as he's been as the champ is that he's had an opportunity to try out his potential next ball as he's gone along. When he finished his last match, he tried this ball out to see what the actual ball reaction would be and chose to start this match with that ball where, when you're coming in and haven't seen the lanes change, you're kind of just taking a shot in the dark, what you're gonna start with.
Well, I want you to talk a little more about the decisions that these guys make as far as the equipment and the balls go, because they're both staff bowlers for different bowling companies. Let people know a little bit about both of you guys, Jack, as well, too, because obviously this is a big part of your life. The evolution of how that comes to be, how you make the decisions, and then what you do once you make the decisions.
Well, Jack has a situation where people walk into his pro shop and sees a rack of bowling balls and they'll see Maddie throw an ebonite ball on TV, or they'll see Mike throw a Brunswick ball on TV. So they're going to walk into the shop and say, okay, fine, what's going to work well for me? And that's the question you get asked, I'm sure, a lot.
Oh, almost everybody that comes in. I mean, you can get overwhelmed when you look on the wall and you see 30 different bowling balls on the wall. How do you know what to pick? But that's where part of my job is asking questions to the bowler. Where it is that they bowl, what it is they currently have. If they bowl here, or if they come in here at a time when I can get them out on the lanes and watch them throw a few shots. The more information you get about a bowler, the better. I mean, for me to get to watch somebody throw a few shots, it doesn't even have to be a lot. 3, 4, 5 shots. That helps me as far as what their ball speed's like, what their rev rate's like, how much hook they get, how much they don't get, and
then you know how to match that up to the characteristics of the different ball companies.
Exactly, because you've got probably 5 tiers of bowling balls, from high performance to upper mids to low end. So
and it matters probably what they're willing to spend as well, right?
Oh, that's true.
Do the companies have different characteristics, Jack? Does an ebonite ball do things differently that a Brunswick ball doesn't, and vice versa? I
would absolutely say that the major manufacturers all have subtle differences in their characteristics for sure, and not everybody's gonna match up to a Storm ball or a Brunswick ball or an ebonite ball. I mean, and people will find nowadays you're starting to see some more of the companies have demo days, where they've come up with some ways where you can go out and actually try some bowling balls before you buy. So that's a big advantage too. And we try to do 1 or 2 of those during the year.
Yeah, so if anybody's not sure, maybe call the local bowling center and find out from the pro shop when they will have these demo days, because instead of it's a huge investment nowadays. It'd be $200, $250 for a bowling ball that you'll get great use out of it and you'll have great scores with. You do that for golf clubs, but here you can have an opportunity to try it out before you actually purchase it.
Interesting that you brought up golf clubs, and I want to ask you guys about that, but at the moment, Matt Zasowski with 5 consecutive strikes to start this match. After the first 2 spares from Mike Zarcone, he has 3 consecutive strikes. All right, the action will continue on Beat the Champ in just a minute. Welcome back to Beat the Champ. All right, so how does that change the dynamics of a match that Matt started with 5 straight strikes?
Right, look at this match where Mike looked like he was, not 100% dialed in when he first started this match, which is going to give Maddie a certain amount of, relaxation, a little confidence. Then that bowler comes on and throws 4 in a row, like he's dialed in, and all of a sudden that changes very quickly in 5 frames. The perspective of each bowler, like their mental state changed in 5 frames.
I mean, it's a short sprint, but momentum shifted very quickly on one shot.
All right, so Mike Zarcone is working on 4 consecutive strikes now. After that 2 spares make that 5 consecutive. So, boy, this match has had its tosses and turns and ups and downs just through the first 7 frames.
Well,
Michael just took 11-pin lead with that shot right there.
He just took the 11-pin lead, right.
So even though Matt Zasowski started with 5 consecutive strikes and Mike spared the first 2, he's now in the lead right now. Right. It's amazing.
And, Matt has not missed the pocket. He's been absolutely perfect into the pocket for 7 frames, and Mike, he had a pretty errant shot there. It doesn't matter. He's up 11.
And the run continues. That's 6 in a row for Mike Zarcone, making his 11th Beat the Champ show appearance. That is tied for number 1 now with Tony Dolan. And as I mentioned, 12 wins for Mike Zarcone, 4 weekly wins. Meanwhile, Matt Zasowski up to 9 wins here on Beat the Champ, and right in the middle of a fight for his life in these 2 big-time, high-profile Beat the Champ bowlers.
Well, this is where the experience comes in.
That was pretty much a must strike right there.
Right. This is where their experience comes in, and the fact that they've been here so many times and seen so many of these matches that they can come up and strike in these situations.
So after the open frame, as you can see on the Castellone scoreboard, it's 2 strikes in a row for Matt Zasowski to put the pressure right back on Mike Zarcone.
Matty's going to have to strike here just to have almost any chance, to be honest.
So it's a critical 9th frame for Matt Zasowski. Let's watch and listen.
Perfect.
He did exactly what he needed to do, right, Jack?
Absolutely. Maddie's got a chance at 267 max. Mike right now can max out for 278. So
I have to also add that the sign of a seasoned bowler is to be able to miss that spare and put it behind you and get back up and double. Because a lot of times that will play on you and it'll,
We've
you'll
seen
let
that
it
happen
bother
a
you.
lot.
Yeah.
I think that's where Maddie's really gained a lot of experience over the last years.
9th frame for Mike Zarcone. If he keeps doing that, he's going to win.
Well, pretty simple right now. Two strikes from Mike right now as a winner. Strike 9 spare will give him 267, which would force Maddie to strike out and attempt to tie.
This is as good as any match you're ever going to see on the PBA or anything else. This is bowling at its best.
This is why we play the game.
Yep, and I think we felt like we knew this when you looked ahead and saw the chance for these two guys to match up. This is exactly what we expected. He didn't like it,
Got
right?
that one right quick. Got it to the dry part a little too soon and overhooked a little bit.
All right, so as you said, now that changes things once again,
Absolutely.
doesn't it?
Now for Mike, spare right here, and it's very important to spare and then strike on the fill ball to shoot 257, which
Right, this is
would
where
make
the
Maddie
count.
throw 2 strikes to
Right.
win. So even though he's disappointed that he didn't strike there and shut him out, this is a big shot for Mike right here.
Okay, so Mike Zarcone really needs a strike here to finish out this match and force Matt Zazowski to respond. What a great match this has been between these two guys. Oh,
That makes Maddie's job just a little bit easier now.
So he's looking at 9 spare.
Strike. He's going to still have to strike.
So strike on the first ball.
But yeah, now it becomes strike 9 spare for the win.
so it's a 255 for Mike Zarcone. And Matt Zazowski can win this if he does exactly what Jack said. First throw of the 10th frame for Matt Zazowski.
What a shot.
So a big response from Matt Zazowski. First strike in the 10th frame. And you can see how close and tight this one is.
So I've really gotten impressed with how Maddie's really developed in the last couple of years. I think getting out and bowling some of these other tournaments, getting exposure with some of the PBA players has really done a lot for him. There you have it.
And there you go. Matt Zazowski, it looked like he was going to win big. All of a sudden he was down, looked like he wasn't going to win, and now he's going to win. And that's exactly what you would have expected from a great match.
The beauty of our game.
Guys.
Well, Baddies had to go out there today and average 260. 260 plus.
It's a little 790 something, I think.
Yeah.
So it's 277, 259, and the final on the board here in a win for Matt Zazowski in a battle of two of the best bowlers that we have on this show. Matt Zazowski ends it with 5 consecutive strikes and puts the 267 on the board. So again, 277, 259, 267. That's some bowling, isn't it?
That's right.
That was a great show.
Yeah, it was. What a fantastic show. We will talk to both guys and wrap up the show and preview what might be an even better next week's show when Jack, Sue, and myself return. You're watching Beat the Champ at Transit Lanes. We're back right after this. Well, that was one of the best matches we have ever had here on Beat the Champ. I know you don't necessarily agree with that, but the 267 to 255 win for Matt Zasowski over Mike Zarcone. Take me through the ups and downs and back and forths of that match.
I didn't start off so good. A couple bad shots, and then ran a few, and then didn't perform at the end when I needed to.
Do you enjoy going up against some of the best? You're one of the best. Do you enjoy bowling the best?
Sure. Why not? That's how you be the best. You got to beat the best.
Well, it was a heck of a match between two of the best. Lane manager Bill Truman, you do have something to make Mike feel a little better.
Yeah. Try to make him feel a little bit better. Nice bowling today. Great job.
Right. Well, Sue, I'm anxious to hear Matt's take on how that one went.
Matt, great bowling today, 260 plus average. Do you think all of the experience that you have bowling tournaments and bowling against the best has helped you in these critical situations?
It definitely helps. It doesn't hurt. And bowling against Mike, I didn't see his 10th frame. I just saw the 4-pin stand, and then I just saw the fill. It left me a chance, and I was just hoping that I was able to strike, throw it good, and hope the result was going to be there.
So that's your plan going up. You know you need to throw the first one. Just throw it as good as you possibly can.
Throw it as best you can. You can't control what happens, so.
Okay. Well, that was awesome bowling today, and great recovery from an open frame. And
that didn't help. That did not help for sure.
Yeah, well, overall, this was one of the most exciting shows that we've had, and guess what? It's Matt's job to make next week's show even more exciting, because we'll see Matt back next week. Sue and I will preview next week's show from here at Transit Lanes. When we return, you're watching Beat the Champ. Well, I hope you enjoyed those three matches. I know I did, Sue. Those were three of the most exciting ones with three of the best bowlers we've ever had on the show. But how do you sum up the way Matt Zasowski's bowling right now?
260 plus. I mean,
that says it.
It's going to be hard to beat somebody. If you post a 255 and you can't win, you know you're up against a tough opponent.
Yeah, and it'll be Matt Zasowski's job to keep that up again next week. Meanwhile, you were handling the crowd well, as always, Janelle, and apparently you had a very nice little conversation with one of our favorites, former guest on the show, Pat Brick's daughter, Maddie.
Yeah, Maddie's great. Everyone in the crowd was great today. It was awesome. I just want to keep it up while we're here at Transit.
Yeah, well, the bowling was fantastic, and it only figures to get better. We will see you next week. It's week 2 at Transit Lanes. That's Beat the Champ. We'll see you next week.